Hi, welcome back, guys. It's been a while. I haven't been streaming or playing any video games for a while. I've undergone some surgery. Nothing life critical or anything, but it had to be done. So I was in no shape to play video games. But I'm going to try something new today. Instead of just doing the normal streaming or gaming that I usually do, I just want to hit you up with some video game news. There's been a ton of that lately. So without wasting any more of your time, let's just jump into it. So, first out of the news is that Sony expects PS5 to sell more than the PS4 did in its first fiscal year. Sony Interactive Entertainment CEO Jim Ryan, he said that he believes that more PlayStation 5 consoles will be sold in the first fiscal year than the amount of PS4s sold in the same period. And I think he's right. Like, it's been super hard to get a hold of PlayStation 5. Okay, they messed up the pre-orders. That's old news by now, so I'm not going to dig more into that. But it's still going to be probably the most sold PlayStation that they've ever made. Possibly even competing with like the PlayStation 2 that beat all records. With that said, I will take anything that comes from Jim Ryan with a grain of salt, or perhaps just like barrels of salt, because he also believed in generations, and he's just been pulling a lot of nonsense, like the stuff that he said about the Xbox Series S. Now that was something special. So he basically said, and I quote, "One thing that can be said is that if you look at the history of game business, creating a special low-priced reduced spec console is something that has not had great results in the past." Jim Ryan, that has never happened before. There's never been launched a lower spec than higher spec console at the same time before. So he's basically just making stuff up. But with that said, I believe in Sony as a team. I believe in Sony as a very strong brand that delivers consistently great games, like just throughout these past generations. So on that alone, I'm not worried. Even though I don't trust Jim Ryan at all. But I don't have to, that's the beauty of it. So, next up is Digital Foundry, and they just said something very interesting in their latest video. They're basically saying that the PS5 GPU offers around the same type of performance as a NVIDIA RTX 2060 Super card. And that is insane for the price that you pay for the PS5. Which sits around $400 and $500 depending on where you live in the world, and that's just nuts. But let's see what they actually said in their video.
The RTX 2060 Super performs similar to an RTX 2070 and has the same amount of bandwidth for its video RAM as the PS5 does to its system memory. It also has 8 GB of VRAM. This GPU most likely will end up being a great point of comparison to the GPU in the PS5. At 4K rendering resolution and native resolution reflections in this scene, where the amount of ray trace reflections on the screen is small since it's a small puddle, the GPU is just barely hitting 30 FPS at full 4K with full resolution reflections. If there was more action on screen, and not just me staring at the floor here, this would definitely be under 30 FPS. Here, reducing the axis resolution of ray tracing by 50% and thereby quartering the total resolution to 1080p increases performance by around 27%, leaving a lot of headroom for the GPU to be running above 30 FPS, so more could happen on screen then. In other scenes, I can see more dramatic results, like here outside in the rain, as this surface is utilizing ray trace reflections and takes up nearly the entire screen. In this case, native 4K resolution reflections are at 21 FPS and not at all playable. Quartering the resolution though to 1080p increases the frame rate by 58% and brings up the FPS to 33, and thus it's good enough for a 30 FPS game target like we see on Spider-Man on the PS5. So on a GPU of similar caliber to that found in the PS5, using lower resolution ray traced reflections is necessary so that 30 FPS can be hit consistently when outputting 4K resolution.
Wow, right? Yeah, great, thanks. Amazing.
うわすごいすごいすごいお別々で言ってるちょっと待って砂浴びてるっぽいザラザラザラって言ってんの
Next up is some more PS5 news. Yeah, you know it. So, last weekend, Japanese media and influencers were invited to this special PlayStation 5 hands-on event, where they got to play Astro's Playroom, yeah, blowing into the controller, Godfall, and some other games. I did not catch the rest of them. But anyway, so the special thing about this news story is that the influencers in the Japanese media, they didn't actually get to check out the user interface or the create button. I mean, it was in such controlled environment, and we're just like 37 days away from the release. So this is a very different approach from what Microsoft did, because they basically just sent out a bunch of Xboxes to a lot of the media, where they got to try out a bunch of backwards compatible games. So they also had restrictions, but not in the same way. It's not in a same type of controlled environment, even though they had limited access to the games they could play. And now over to some very positive news for both Sony and Microsoft. So they've stated that their next-gen consoles will support the ability to delete unwanted sections of a game. And this is very good news, because games nowadays, they're easily up to 100 gigabytes or even more. Call of Duty Warzone takes up 250 gigabytes. So if you can delete the campaign and just keep the multiplayer as an example, that would be great, because the SSDs for PS5 and the Xbox Series, they're really expensive. We're talking about $200. So unless you want to fork out mad amount of money, then you need to be a little bit economical with the hard drive space. So this is a very, very good thing that we can do that. Previously, you could just, for some certain games, you could download just the multiplayer, but this will give you even more control over your games and the space that they use. So hopefully more and more games will use this functionality of the consoles, so you don't have to delete and re-download, or move the games from the external hard drive over to the SSD every time I want to play something. So yeah, good news. And I saved the best for last. Cyberpunk 2077 hit gold. Yes, no more delays. The game is coming out November 19th to all platforms: PS5, PS4, Xbox One, Xbox Series, and PC, and I'm so looking forward to this game. They've been working on it for, I guess it's closer to 8 years now, but it hasn't been without controversy, because CD Projekt Red, they were called out by the media, I don't know, like a year ago or something, for their crunch culture, and they basically went out publicly and said that they would stop with the crunch culture. But it seems that they got some shit for it again, because they basically had to go into overtime for the last week. But with that said, they are giving the employees, so 10% of their profits that goes to the company will be spread out to the employees. So that's estimated to be 50,000 American dollars per employee. And this is in Poland, where the median salary is around $5,000 per year. So with that taken into consideration, they're profiting of this for sure. And the overtime laws in Poland, from what I understand, is very strict. It's only 150 hours per year, so I don't think it's that bad. I do not support like crunching and people just working as slaves basically, but I don't know if I would call it that. If 150 hours per year of overtime, that's very doable. So, but that's it for the news for today. Alright guys, that's it for today's video. If you liked the video, then please hit the like button and subscribe and hit that bell. And I will be making more videos in the future, and also I'll be on streaming video games again soon enough. I've just had to take some time off because of the surgery. I've not been up for gaming at all. That's only natural. But okay, that's it from me. You guys have a good morning, good day, and good night wherever you are. Bye!